On Wednesday, Donald Trump has threatened to sue the New York Times for libel in response to an article that featured two women accusing him of touching them inappropriately years ago. But the newspaper defended its reporting and told Trump's lawyers that we welcome the opportunity to have a court set him straight. These allegations come less than a week after a leaked audio recording from 2005 where the Republican nominee was taped bragging about being able to force himself upon women without consequences. And joining us right now is trial attorney Hunter Shkolnik. Hunter is currently serving as a representative on the plaintiff's steering committee in various civil actions involving numerous plaintiffs against one. Hunter, welcome to WHDT. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me here today. Appreciate it.
Not at all. Hunter, now, with your vast legal experience, does Donald Trump have a case here?
To put it in as few words as possible, the threat of this lawsuit, as well as the lawsuit itself, is utterly frivolous. And I don't say that lightly. You're talking about probably one of the most public figures in the world right now, running for the President of the United States, and to suggest that you could ever reach the level to establish a claim of libel truly borders on frivolous, and I don't use that word lightly.
Hunter, if you can, give me an example in your experience where libel would stand up in court. If somebody said you were liable, what would the circumstances be that would hold up in court?
Well, I think what you have to understand is in order to establish a libel claim, first and foremost, you'd better not be a public figure. It's usually a private person or an individual where a truly false claim is brought against them and made public. Here, we're not talking about that, and I'm not saying whether or not it's true or false. First and foremost, he's a public figure, which puts the standards so high. Secondly, whether or not the statement is true or false in terms of the New York Times publishing it is very hard to establish here. They receive the information directly from the mouths of the people who are claiming it. If anyone is defaming him at all, it would be the individuals. And in terms of experiences, that's where it has to be. It has to be a non-public figure where there are clear knowledge of false information being published by the paper.
All righty. Well, Donald Trump told the Times, Hunter, that the allegations of the two women were false. And his lawyer, Mark Azowitz, demanded that the newspaper retract the story and issue an apology. And, of course, the Times won't do that. Has the line been drawn?
Well, there is a line. A line has been drawn, but Mr. Trump has drawn this line against various other individuals and entities in the past. He has pulled the trigger in some, and he has not in other. Here, the threat by the Kazowitz firm on behalf of Mr. Trump, I think, is a hollow line in the sand. Threatening the New York Times and that you're going to bring this case is really going nowhere. I mean, there are no legs here, and this would be the perfect case for New York Times to defend itself as a newspaper reporting about a super highly public official.
Where would you think the differentiation between the First Amendment and people speaking their minds, which might be considered libel, is?
Well, I suggest to you the First Amendment on the part of a newspaper, whether it's the New York Times, whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC, that level is extremely high. And the issue of defamation or libeling the public official, the level to make that proof is insurmountable, especially in this heated political environment where allegations are being made back and forth, and the Times are drawing upon statements that Mr. Trump made himself. Whether or not these women are telling the truth or not, These are allegations which the Times, as a news agency or a news outlet, they have the right and the protection under the First Amendment to run the story. If these women are lying and Mr. Trump wants to sue these women, let him try it. I just don't think it's going anywhere, whether or not he wins or loses this election.
Since the election cycle began almost 18 months ago, could you take an estimate of about how many opportunities there were for suits of defamation or libel?
On both sides?
On both sides.
I don't think I have enough hands, toes, and fingers, and people around me have enough toes and fingers to come up with suggestions along these lines of potential claims of libel. But whether or not either side, Secretary Clinton or Mr. Trump, could ever succeed in one of these cases, I just couldn't imagine it. I mean, the threat of it is a hollow threat. It's a frivolous threat. It helps get your word out. But everyone knows that in the less than 30 days between now and the election, this lawsuit will mean nothing. Nothing will happen. Nothing will get clarified on either side. It's a hollow threat, and I think in this public arena, for either side to ever claim that is more of a desperation move just to try to get their word out.
Yeah. And Hunter, as we all know, Mr. Trump blames the news media for all of these accusations. So in your opinion, do you think that this is an attempt to divert attention from the real issues?
Well, I think it could certainly be a way to divert people looking at what are considered real issues. Real issues, come in many different, guises. I mean, certainly there are people that believe how a potential president acts in their private lives is an important issue. On the other hand, there's also the important issues surrounding the country in terms of economics and whether or not the other opponent has acted badly. I think in a heated presidential election, there is no diversion of issues here. I think to some people, these are important issues one way or the other. Whether we like the topic that we're talking about or who brings it out.
Is it, in your opinion, coincidence that this just came out about a month before the election? I can't help wondering what your thoughts are that this could be a political hit job.
I don't believe anything's a coincidence in this election cycle. There is no coincidence that this type of information, allegations are brought out late, just like there is no question the timing of email releases from hackers came out at the same time. It looks like everybody on either side, and I'm not saying the candidates themselves, there are people who support these candidates on both sides who are ready to pull triggers and were waiting for the opportune time. And nothing surprises me that this information gets leaked to the press at such a late date when the voting begins.
A public figure, Hunter, such as Donald Trump running for president, if he pursues a lawsuit against the Times, it could prove to be pretty difficult for him. Would a lawsuit force him to release information about his sexual behavior?
Oh, this would be the worst mistake to pursue this lawsuit against the New York Times. Everything about his personal life, whether it's sexual or how he interacts with other people, will come out in this lawsuit. They will seek confidentiality, which is very common in these cases, but we all know what confidentiality means these days in this type of an environment. It gets out. Once this election is over, I doubt this lawsuit will ever be talked about again other than historically.
And we're going to see how this all plays out. As it is in any dispute, Hunter, there will be a winner and a loser.
That's certainly true here. And unfortunately, if this lawsuit is brought, and speaking as a lawyer, I don't want to say anything negative about my colleagues out there, but the winners in that lawsuit between Mr. Trump and the New York Times will be a lot of very high-priced lawyers defending and prosecuting a case that'll go nowhere.
Hunter Shkolnik, thank you so very much for being with us and sharing your thoughts here on WHDT World News.
Thank you very much.